Can you really make digital look like film? Let's find out. Film photography is incredible. And if you've seen any of my other videos, you will know that I am a huge fan of shooting film. The process, the colors, the grain, it's all part of what makes it special. But there is a downside. Shooting film today is expensive. With rising film prices and fewer labs, it's not always the most practical option. So that got me thinking, how can we get that beautiful film look without the cost of actually shooting film? Personally, I see film and digital as two different tools for two different needs. When I want to slow down, be intentional, and really enjoy the craft, I shoot film. But when I need speed, efficiency, and flexibility, I go digital. That being said, I do still very much prefer the look of film, so how do I get that when shooting digital? I think there are two key elements that can really help us make digital photos feel like film. First of all, a huge part of that organic film aesthetic comes from using older lenses. Modern digital lenses are sharp, maybe even too sharp. But a simple vintage lens can really give you that creamy bokeh, those dreamy flares, and those subtle imperfections that really feel more organic. For this video, I used an adapter to mount a Helios 44-2 lens on my digital camera. This lens is famous for its beautiful swirly bokeh. To mount it to my camera, I use this adapter, which has a chip in it that communicates with the camera. You can also use a basic plastic adapter, but you will lose a few functions. One thing to note with using vintage lenses is that they are most likely manual focus, which will slow you down if you're not used to it. Also, the metadata that you will get from this lens will not be accurate. For example, in this shoot I shot everything at an aperture of 2.8, but Lightroom is telling me that I shot it at 1.4. The other part that I think will help us a great deal in making digital look like film is the use of film emulations. But we'll get to that later. So to put my theory to the test, I went out on a warm summer evening to shoot my boyfriend Gregory in a field with straw bales. And boars. Apparently.
Yes, there's a boar.
Oh my god.
It won't come to us. This will be protected. He saw us now. See, he's scared. It's more scared than
I shot with two different setups. On the one hand, I used my Canon 6D with a Helios lens mounted to it, and then I also shot with the Praktica MTL5, a 35mm film camera that I loaded with some Kodak Gold 200. I shot both cameras at an aperture of 2.8 and an ISO of 200, and I also used a tripod to keep the composition as similar as possible. However, the Helios lens is a 58mm focal length, while the lens on my Praktica is a 50mm lens, so the film photos will be a bit wider than the digital ones. And move your face a bit more that way, a bit more this way, and a bit more further away as well. And if you look that way with your face.
look with your face.
Now that we have the digital photos, let's bring them to life by using some film emulations. And this is where Dehancer comes in. They reached out to me to give an honest review of their film emulation plugin for Lightroom. They also have an online version, so I will be testing out both to see if they really deliver on that authentic film look. So let's get into Lightroom. First off, we want to make a few basic adjustments, like for example, I am just going to crop this photo a little bit just so that the horizon is actually level. And then we also want to change the color profile to Adobe Standard. For best results, shooting RAW is recommended, and Dehancer also has a couple of recommendations to really make the most out of your photos. These are mainly meant to reduce the contrast of your photos so that the plugin has the most information possible to work with. I do find that the Helios lens already reduced the contrast quite a bit, so I am not going to touch this too much, but I am going to reduce the highlights so they are not clipped. Then we can right-click on our photo to start editing it in the Dehancer plugin. Lightroom will then create a 16-bit TIFF file that will open in Dehancer. So on the left we have our films and presets. If they don't seem to work at first, you just have to make sure that you check this box to make them active. If you don't want to use a film profile, but you just want to add an effect like grain or halation, then you can leave this box unchecked and just head straight on over to the right where you can make additional adjustments. So in the film profiles, we have a bunch of options going from black and white, color negative, and even instant film. You can scroll through them up here, or you can click on the little previews to apply them to your photo. Now over on the right, we can really start fine-tuning our image. I am not going to go over all the different settings here because there are a lot of them, but I will share with you the ones that I personally like to use. So under source, we can make some adjustments to our exposures and the overall color temperature and tint. After adjusting the source, I go to expand, and what you can do here is adjust the black and white point. Here I find it useful to turn on the histogram and the clipping to make sure I'm not losing too much detail in the highlights and the shadows. And then there is the print section. This setting here can really change the look of your photo. I personally like to stay with the Kodak Endura glossy paper, and here I also like to play with the tonal contrast. Under color head, you can fine-tune the colors, going from an overall look to the highlights, the midtones and the shadows. Then we get to some really specific film effects like grain, halation and bloom. The cool thing here is that you can choose a preset, but you can also choose custom and really dive deep into how you want the grain to look. And the same goes for halation and bloom. You can choose one of the many presets, or you can really customize it to your liking. When you're happy with your edits, you can hit the OK button, but before you do that, you can also save your own preset if you want to use these adjustments you made on another photo. You just go over here to the left, click presets, the plus button, and voila, you have your own preset. So that was a quick overview of the Dehancer plugin for Lightroom. I actually really like it. It feels a little bit overwhelming at first because there are so many presets to choose from, but once you start playing around with it, it's actually really quite easy to use, and it does really make your photos look more like film. Of course, you can't expect a digital photo with a preset to perfectly replicate the look of an actual film photo. But these presets definitely do a good job at mimicking some key aspects of these film stocks, and they are a great starting point to find the film look you are looking for. One thing that I think would be a cool add-on for this plugin would be a slider at the end of all your edits to adjust the strength of the overall look, just like you can do with presets in Lightroom. Sometimes I do a bunch of editing and in the process it all looks really good, but in the end it just looks a little bit too much. So having a slider like this to adjust the overall strength in the end would be something that I find very useful. One downside of this plugin is that you can only edit one photo at a time. Of course, you can use presets, and Dehancer will also automatically apply your last used settings to any new photo that you open in the plugin, but you can't batch edit photos. So if you're a wedding photographer, for example, it's gonna take you a while to edit all your photos. Now, if you don't want to edit your photos through Lightroom, Dehancer also has an online version. So how it works is you basically drag your photo in there and then you get all the available presets. As you can see, there are also a lot of presets available for this online version. If you want to make adjustments to the brightness and contrast, you can do this by clicking the Light tab. And if you click on the Color button, you will be able to choose from a bunch of options to adjust the temperature and tint. If you don't like using these little previews, you don't have to. You can also use the Adjust tab on the right and fine-tune things from there. And of course, they also added the possibility to add grain, halation and bloom in the online version. Alright, let's do a little test. In the following photos, can you tell which one is the digital one? So if you're interested in Dehancer, you can go over to their website and use my promo code ELS10. This code will give you a 10% discount and it will also help support my channel. So let me know, what do you think? Do you think I succeeded in making digital look like film? And are you going to try it for yourself? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!